Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters across the great lands of Africa and the diaspora, this is Intervlog. I said, this is Intervlog. Welcome to another powerful episode of Intervlog, the voice of African truth, pride, and progress. Today, we are shouting with joy, hearts beating with pride, because our topic is one that sends ripples of hope across the continent. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, has done it again. In his unwavering vision of an independent, sovereign, and powerful Africa, he has taken yet another historic step. Yes, family, the Institute of Black Peoples, Farafina, IPN Farafina, has been born. A new dawn is breaking over Burkina Faso. The spirit of Thomas Sankara lives again. The soul of the Buffalo Soldier breathes once more in the heart of Africa. Intervlog salutes this monumental initiative led by our brother, our leader, our revolutionary captain Ibrahim Traoré. Let's break this down for the world to understand just how big this is. The IPN Farafina is not just an institution. It is the rebirth of an African consciousness. It is a fortress of Black pride, African dignity, and cultural revival. Created in the image of the Buffalo Soldiers of 1861, this military regiment and ideological institution speaks of resilience, of history, of justice. Let us remember the Buffalo Soldiers, Black men, formerly enslaved, systematically oppressed, who rose in 1866 to defend and serve with courage. From the dusty trails of the American West to the steep hills of San Juan in Cuba, they marched. Their legacy is one of discipline, strength, and loyalty. And today, President Traoré draws from that well of strength. The IPN Farafina is our own Buffalo Soldier Regiment, not just in name, but in spirit. It is African. It is Pan-African. It is sovereign. This institution carries the ideals of anti-imperialism and the spirit of the people's progressive revolution. It is a sword against the forces of recolonization, a shield against the erasure of our culture, and a school to train sovereignist minds. Let the world know, the IPN Farafina is not just military. It is also scientific. It is cultural. It is diplomatic. It is intellectual. It is a cradle where African history will be studied by Africans for Africans. Our ancestors smile in joy. This move, my people, is part of a grand vision. It is not isolated. It is deliberate. It is structured. On the same day, May 14th, 2025, Captain Traoré's government also announced the creation of a higher military education college in Burkina Faso. Now we're talking about an African military education that is adapted to our realities, our terrains, our threats, and our culture. No longer shall Burkina Faso depend on foreign military doctrines that do not suit our people. We will train our officers locally. We will educate them in geopolitics, crisis management, and leadership, with Africa at the center. And that's not all. This college will be open to brothers and sisters from neighboring and fellow African countries. A Pan-African military elite will rise, trained not to serve foreign interests, but to protect African dignity and territorial integrity. Can you feel the power in this decision, family? Burkina Faso is becoming a lighthouse, a beacon of African resistance, a bastion of Black pride. From the ashes of the original IPN created during the 1983 revolution of Thomas Sankara, Captain Ibrahim Traoré raises a phoenix. The original IPN was buried by those who tried to erase Sankara's memory. But today, in 2025, it returns even stronger. It returns with soldiers, with scholars, with sovereignty. Intervlog family, let us not take this lightly. This is a declaration of ideological war against colonial mindsets. This is a cultural uprising. This is a military awakening. And President Traoré is leading it with the wisdom of Sankara and the boldness of Lumumba. He is showing us that independence is not just about borders. It is about the mind. It is about the curriculum. It is about who trains our soldiers and who tells our stories. We are entering a new era where Burkina Faso becomes a sanctuary for Pan-Africanism, a place where young Africans come to learn about Nkrumah, about Cabral, about Marcus Garvey, about Harriet Tubman, about the Buffalo Soldiers, and about Sankara and Traoré. This is more than pride. This is legacy. This is how we plant the seeds of sovereignty in the minds of our children. This is how we end dependency. This is how we defeat imperialism. So, to the skeptics and critics who still wonder what Traoré is building, let Intervlog answer. He is building freedom. He is building history. He is building Africa. We invite every youth, every intellectual, every African soldier of the mind and of the sword to look to Burkina Faso. The IPN Farafina is calling. It is calling the brave, the committed, the visionary. And here at Intervlog, we will keep telling these stories. We will keep echoing the names of our heroes. Because this is our revolution. This is our renaissance. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, we salute you. May your path be protected. May your vision live on. May your courage ignite every African soul. Family, stay tuned as we dive deeper in the next episodes. There is more to unpack, more to praise, more to learn. Burkina Faso is rising. Africa is rising. The President of Faso, Head of State, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has created a new military infantry regiment in the image of the Buffalo Soldier of 1861 called the Institute of Black People's Farafina, IPN, Farafina. The Black People's Institute revived for an African cultural renaissance and a higher military education college created in Burkina Faso. The President of Faso, Head of State, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, chaired the weekly Council of Ministers meeting on Wednesday, May 14, 2025. At the end of the meeting, the government spokesperson, Mandé Gilbert Ouedraogo, indicated that several reports had been adopted and important decisions taken in accordance with the vision of the People's Progressive Revolution, RPP. On behalf of the presidency of Burkina Faso, the council adopted a decree establishing a new structure called the Institute of Black People's Farafina, IPN Farafina. According to the government spokesperson, this institute is the concrete translation of His Excellency Captain Ibrahim Traoré's vision for a genuine struggle for the total sovereignty of Burkina Faso, a fight against imperialism, and a firm commitment to African Renaissance and the defense of the Pan-African cause. The Black People's Institute, Farafina, has legal personality, management autonomy, and is designed as a Pan-African structure with scientific, ideological, diplomatic, and cultural vocations, said Minister Mandé Gilbert Ouedraogo. The IPN Farafina's mission is to work towards reaffirming the ideals of sovereignty, Pan-Africanism, and African cultural renaissance, in line with the political vision of the head of state. For the government spokesperson, the IPN Farafina is part of a logic of rebuilding African consciousness, geocultural influence, and training sovereignist elites. For the record, this new structure attached to the presidency of Faso rises from the ashes of the IPN, which was conceived during the August 1983 revolution by Captain Thomas Sankara and later created in 1990. The IPN ended up disappearing in the dynamics of actions to erase the memory of Captain Thomas Sankara, maintains the government spokesperson. On behalf of the Ministry of Defense and Veterans Affairs, the Council adopted a decree amending the decree relating to the organizational chart of the said ministry through the creation of a higher military education college in Burkina Faso. According to the Minister of State for Defense, Brigadier General Célestin Simperé, this college will, among other things, locally train a military elite with skills in strategy, command, crisis management, and geopolitics. Adapt curricula to national and sub-regional security realities. Strengthen the country's sovereignty in terms of high-level military training. General Simperé notes that this college will also enable the development of sub-regional and regional cooperation by welcoming officers from neighboring countries or other African countries, thus contributing to collective stability. The establishment of the Higher Military Education College is part of a logic of strengthening national resilience in the face of multifaceted threats and the sustainable professionalization of the Burkinabe Armed Forces, professes the Minister of State, Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs, Brigadier General Célestin Simporé. The name Buffalo Soldier, which Captain Ibrahim Traoré copied from to establish his Institute of Black People's Farafina, IPN, Farafina, resonates with strength, endurance, and resilience. It symbolizes the story of African-American soldiers who defied racial odds and fought not just on the battlefield, but also against social injustice. These brave men, many of whom were formerly enslaved, served the United States Army with unwavering loyalty and valor. Their tale is more than a chapter in military history. It is a chronicle of determination and human dignity. The historical background of the Buffalo Soldiers. The Civil War, 1861 to 1865, marked a turning point for African Americans in the United States. Over 180,000 black men had served in the Union Army during the conflict, fighting for freedom and the abolition of slavery. However, after the war ended, the question arose: what next for the black soldier? The Reconstruction era, 1865 to 1877, was a time of political instability and racial conflict. While the 13th Amendment had formally abolished slavery, the struggle for African American rights was far from over. Southern states imposed black codes, and former Confederate states resisted integrating African Americans into society. Yet, amidst these challenges, Congress passed the Army Reorganization Act of 1866, which authorized the formation of 2 cavalry regiments and 4 infantry regiments composed of black soldiers. In 1866, the U.S. Congress authorized the creation of 6 African American regiments: 9th Cavalry Regiment, 10th Cavalry Regiment, 38th, 39th, 40th, and 41st Infantry Regiments, which later became the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments. These soldiers were led by white officers, an unfortunate reflection of the era's racial attitudes, but the troops themselves were composed of African Americans, many of whom were veterans of the Civil War. Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, became one of the key training grounds for these regiments. From the outset, the Buffalo Soldiers were given some of the most difficult military assignments. They were stationed in remote outposts, where they built roads, protected settlers, maintained peace in the lawless West, and battled Native American tribes during the Indian Wars. Why the name Buffalo Soldier? The term Buffalo Soldier was given by Native American tribes, likely the Cheyenne or Comanche, who admired the soldiers' courage and thought their curly hair resembled a buffalo's coat. Others believe it was due to their fierce fighting style and tenacity, which reminded the native warriors of the mighty buffalo. The name, initially informal, grew into a symbol of respect, and over time became a badge of honor. The Buffalo Soldiers embraced the name and even incorporated the buffalo into their regimental insignia. From the 1860s to the 1890s, the Buffalo Soldiers served in the American West during the Indian Wars. These conflicts were often brutal, and the Buffalo Soldiers played key roles in many campaigns, including escorting settlers, wagon trains, and stagecoaches, protecting railroad crews from raids, engaging in combat with Native American tribes, resisting relocation. Despite being given poor equipment, old horses, and worn-out uniforms, they displayed exceptional courage. Between 1870 and 1890, 18 Buffalo Soldiers received the Medal of Honor, the highest military award for bravery. Their duties extended beyond combat. They surveyed land, mapped territories, and established outposts. Their presence brought a measure of stability to the tumultuous frontier. The life of a Buffalo Soldier was far from glamorous. Harsh weather, disease, hostile territory, and racial discrimination made their service incredibly difficult. They were often stationed in desolate areas, far from civilization, and had to construct their own living quarters. Food was scarce, pay was low, and medical care was minimal. Still, their commitment to duty and discipline never wavered. Even more difficult was the racism they faced, not just from civilians, but from within the military itself. White settlers and soldiers often treated them with contempt, and they had to prove themselves constantly to earn respect. In 1898, when the United States went to war with Spain, the Buffalo Soldiers were among the first to respond. The 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments, along with the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments, played a significant role in the battles in Cuba. They fought heroically at the Battle of San Juan Hill, where their bravery was so evident that even Theodore Roosevelt, who led the Rough Riders, praised them, though historical records suggest they were crucial to the victory, while Roosevelt's Rough Riders received more media attention. The Buffalo Soldiers also served in the Philippines during the Philippine-American War, continuing their tradition of service abroad. The 10th Cavalry Regiment, formed at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, under the command of Colonel Benjamin Grierson, became one of the most famous units. Grierson respected his men and advocated for their fair treatment. Another important leader was Lieutenant Henry Ossian Flipper, the first African-American graduate of West Point. Flipper's legacy as a trailblazer endures. Units like the 24th and 25th Infantry also built reputations for excellence. They constructed infrastructure, fought fires, and protected communities during civil unrest. Throughout their service, Buffalo Soldiers faced systemic racism. They were often denied promotions, subjected to unfair punishments, and given inferior resources. White officers frequently doubted their capabilities despite decades of demonstrated excellence. The Brownsville Affair of 1906 is a tragic example. 167 members of the 25th Infantry were dishonorably discharged following an incident in Texas for which they were wrongly blamed. It wasn't until 1972 that they were exonerated. Still, the Buffalo Soldiers' valor shone through. Their service paved the way for the eventual integration of the U.S. military and inspired generations of African-American leaders. Buffalo Soldiers in World War I and World War II. Although segregation persisted, the Buffalo Soldiers continued to serve during the 20th century. In World War I, African-American regiments, including descendants of the Buffalo Soldiers, served with distinction, though often under French command due to racism within the American military hierarchy. In World War II, the legacy continued. The 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions, considered the modern-day descendants of the Buffalo Soldiers, served in Europe and the Pacific. These units faced tough battles and discrimination, yet proved their worth time and again. In 1948, President Harry S. Truman issued Executive Order 9981, mandating the desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces. This was a direct result of decades of exemplary service by African-American troops like the Buffalo Soldiers. The original regiments were eventually deactivated or integrated into other units, marking the end of the Buffalo Soldier era, but not the end of their legacy. One of the most iconic tributes to the Buffalo Soldiers comes from reggae legend Bob Marley, whose 1983 song Buffalo Soldier brought their story to global audiences. The lyrics refer to a stolen heritage and proud identity. Buffalo Soldier, dreadlock Rasta, fighting on arrival, fighting for survival. Books, films, and TV series have also honored their story. From John Ford's Sergeant Rutledge to children's books about Henry Flipper, their courage has inspired creators and educators alike. Today, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, hosts a stunning Buffalo Soldier monument unveiled in 1992 by General Colin Powell. Statues, plaques, and educational programs across the U.S. honor their contributions. In 2005, President George W. Bush posthumously pardoned Lieutenant Henry O. Flipper, correcting one of the injustices suffered by a Buffalo Soldier. Annual parades, riding clubs, and reenactment groups continue to preserve their history and educate the public. The Buffalo Soldiers' experience mirrors that of other African and diasporic military units. The Tirailleurs Sénégalais in French West Africa, the King's African Rifles in British colonies, the Harlem Hellfighters of WWI. These groups share common themes: bravery, exploitation, and a lasting fight for equality. Their legacy continues through African American military service, civil rights activism, and cultural pride. Organizations like the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum and Buffalo Soldiers Motorcycle Club work tirelessly to keep their memory alive. Black soldiers today carry that torch, many crediting the Buffalo Soldiers as their spiritual and professional forebears. Their story has become a foundational part of African American identity, overcoming adversity, serving with dignity, and demanding respect in an often hostile world. The story of the Buffalo Soldier is one of power, perseverance, and patriotism. From the plains of Texas to the jungles of Cuba, from the trenches of Europe to the deserts of Africa, they carried the burden of duty and discrimination with grace and grit. Their beginning in 1866 was humble, but their impact is eternal. They helped build a better nation and laid the groundwork for racial progress, both within and beyond the military. To remember the Buffalo Soldiers is to honor a legacy of courage, a story not just of black men in uniform, but of America striving to be better than it was. And that journey continues, guided by the powerful spirit of the Buffalo Soldier. On Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, the President of Faso and Head of State, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, officially established the IPN, Farafina. He called upon all Africans across the globe to unite and fight with the same courage and determination as the Buffalo Soldiers of 1861. This is the end of our program today. See you on Intervlog same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching Intervlog. Thank you.